It's been the most intense offseason from a workload that I've ever been through. Never in my wildest dreams did I think the Big Ten would be going out to Washington, Oregon, USC, and UCLA. Never would have dreamt that, but here we are. There's so much change going on right now in the state of college athletics, and if you're not willing to adapt, you're going to be left behind. This is Brenda Frese, and you're checking in with Women's Hoop Network.
You are, of course, an all-time great. You've been coaching for a while. You have a stellar program. And then, we see that great things are happening for you in the portal. So let's just dive on in and just talk about you being with the Terps for 22 seasons. What does that feel like to be able to do that for so long?
Well, thanks for having me. And yeah, it's, when you reflect back and 22 years has just flown by. I can't believe it. It just feels like yesterday when had arrived back in 2002 and so many changes. I can sit here today and as you alluded to now with the transfer portal and NIL and kind of where the game has changed to. But I am really, really proud of the fact of just the sustained level of excellence. It's, really hard to do in this game and to do it at a really high level. And I just feel really fortunate and grateful to have been able to do it here at Maryland, just surrounded by so many wonderful people.
Of course, this past season, you guys, sort of struggled in the early part of the season. You were able to find that stride in the middle. Of course, there were players that you already had. You had returning players, new players. What kind of made your group last year different, from some teams that you've had in the past?
Last year's team kind of faced a lot of adversity. First of all, our schedule probably front loaded was probably a little bit too ambitious given just all the changes. We had lost 2 first-round draft picks with Diamond Miller and Abby Myers that had graduated, and then just adding the influx of new players. It took us longer than most teams to kind of get that chemistry together. Then it seemed like every time we would start, really getting something going, we'd have an injury. We ended up losing, 3 players this past season to ACLs, which was really atypical to have so many injuries. So it really impacted our depth. But I can say I'm really most proud of that. This group just continued to fight. They put their head down. They never gave up. And, you really saw it pay off in March when they had to go 500 in conference to make the NCAAs, and then beating the number 1 seed with Ohio State in the Big Ten tournament and dropping them out. So, and then making the NCAA tournament. So just a lot of things, just given the adversity, just really proud of our group for, a lot of teams would have folded and really fought to be able to make the tournament.
We mentioned earlier how different it is now, just overall. There's social media, there's a way where you can have access to your faves, instantly. Does that make it different for you with coaching, recruiting at all, if any, as far as, just the day and age of social media?
You really are under a microscope, and you can take it just as we've watched in this offseason when Tara Vanderveer and Lisa Bluter just retiring. And, you see that instantly within, 5 minutes when it hits the wire. And I think that's the thing, the instant impact for your team, your players. You say something incorrectly, or just the opinions anymore. Even your student newspapers now feel like they have a voice on your team and your program and want to be heard. So there's a lot of factors that you really have to kind of keep your group insulated and really kind of have to work through, because there's just so many things that are influencing every individual player, every individual member. And it kind of makes it harder to really keep that team connected. So we're very intentional, just really working through that connectedness.
Of course, fans have noticed that you have sort of kind of taken to your Twitter to kind of have a little fun. You were announcing you had some, portal players coming in. You use one of those trending videos what made you want to kind of hone in on that? Do you think that's something that sort of helps too? Because, it's a different generation now. And, just to show the players that, hey, I can understand how you're feeling, what you're going through. I can do social media too.
Well, at first I give the credit to our staff. I'm really
Mm-hmm.
fortunate with the people that I get to work with every single day, and they're the best of the best. I bring in bright people that are smarter than me, so they can help us in this day and age. And I've always challenged our staff to really think outside the box. And
Mm-hmm.
I credit our director of video, Joe Glowacki, and our advanced scout and assistant coach Jessica Imhoff. They were talking about the hashtag come party with Brenda was used during the season, and so that's really where it took off. And with the video of kind of having some fun through the portal commits this off season, and boy did it take off. I mean, after we said the first one, put it out, you could see the response. Even when I was out recruiting, there was a tremendous response. And then it kind of became all hands on deck. My twin boys now are 16, so they gave their input, like, hey, you should add a couple players and you should do this. And yeah, I love the fact that it makes me look like I have really good dance moves, and I can dance that well. But it has been a fun engagement. It makes me really enjoy when you can kind of take that social media influence and really kind of turn some things for fun and for really creative use.
We mentioned the transfer portal. You guys have really been doing some damage, some good damage. Talk a little bit about, what it is that you felt like you may have needed, and not in a sense of you saying you didn't have, but maybe just wanted to add to your program.
Well, I think the commitment came from our administration. I mean, I think if people are asleep if you don't think it's NIL and it's having a collective. That's what changed from a year ago, because we've recruited no differently than what we've done in the past. It's just now having that support out of the collective has been all the difference. You have to have some luck in the sense of the right positions became available this year that we needed. So that was huge. We had the room to be able to bring in more players. I think our staff really fine-tuned, the second year kind of out of, how quickly things move out of the portal. We got a lot tighter and quicker through all of that. So we really improved, I thought, as a staff, and really put like the right pieces together that we really needed to tune into. So I can't say enough about just the work, but of our staff, and it's relentless. You come off of a season making the tournament, and what used to be kind of a chance for a sigh of a reset in April no longer is there. It's very, very intense. It's been the most intense off season from a workload that I've ever been through. My one son asked me the one night when I came through the door at 10:30 at night. He asked me if I was working longer hours now than I was during the season. And he had picked up on that from all the visits and the calls and that we had on campus. And he's 100% right. It goes into another level that you can't really imagine. To sign the 6 or 7 kids that we signed, you might be juggling 25 to 30 kids and families out of that portal. So and it's in a 3 to 4 week span. So it's accelerated at a level that you have to be on with these kids for a long time.
Yeah, and mentioning NIL, like you said, it is totally different. It's changed the trajectory of the game. Um, I mean, there are some who say that some programs use it as a recruiting tactic. Um, does it make it even more difficult to be able to try and get players with NIL, or for you, do you feel like it actually helps?
It really depends on the kid and
Yeah.
the family and what they're looking for. And so I think that's where, every program is trying to showcase, what they have. I mean, I do think, it is the haves versus the have-nots.
Hmm.
you have to be able to leverage some things, and that, in the past it used to be relationships and, past history and success. And I actually think it's very, minimal in that regard anymore versus what you can offer.
So let's jump into Big Ten and the realignment. Talk a little bit about that. You have some programs coming in. What do you think will be your approach for your team with this new realignment? And do you like the realignment? Like, are you here for it?
Well, I mean, I think it's really exciting. I'm glad we're in the Big Ten. I think it's the premier conference in the country, and I'm glad we got here, ahead of it, and we're in a position of great stability and just the leadership that we have top down. Again, never in my wildest dreams did I think the Big Ten would you have told me we were going to be going out to Washington, Oregon, USC, and UCLA. Never would have dreamt that, but here we are. And you know what? You've got to adapt and be able to change. And so I think for us, we'll make it an exciting trip. When we go do those swings out to UCLA and USC and Oregon and Washington, we'll be able to enjoy those experiences. But I saw a really interesting quote the other day, and it talked about how you have to embrace change or you're going to be irrelevant. And it really is kind of a great mindset for me, because there's so much change going on right now in the state of college athletics. And if you're not willing to adapt, you're going to be left behind. So, four great teams, they had a ton of success. I mean, most recently with USC and UCLA and the rosters that they have. So, bring it on. We're excited, that we get to play against even more elite level competition that we've already had in conference play to add even more great teams.
Any teases on who we might get to see you guys match up with in non-con?
Yeah, I mean, we're excited. We've got Duke that's coming in for to play non-conference wise. We'll return to Syracuse. They were a great team that we played this past year, and we're excited. We're taking a trip over to Croatia this summer, so we'll get to start with our team early with practices and building that lineup with all the new faces this summer. So and then, like you said, you add the Big Ten conference. We know we'll be swinging out to Oregon and Washington, and then USC and UCLA will come this way. So play only everybody once with one double. So we'll get ready for what those dates look like in conference play.
As far as last season, what has that taught you, whether about yourself, your team, just the season that you had, your coaching staff, your program? What has that season taught you, for you to look ahead into this upcoming season?
I think a few things is always just remembering to have that inner belief and confidence. I know for us early in November, it was a pretty low point when we had some really stinging losses on the road. And, again, I think, team and staff, you could have folded in a lot of different directions. And we just continued to stay confident and trust who we were going to be. And then I think, like you said, out of the, portal and seeing all the changes is just being adaptable, just finding a way. This is where the state of our game is at. So, embrace it, use the social media, be creative, and find your niche. And I think those are important lessons to be able to learn.
And then the WNBA. Regular season begins tonight. You have a few former players who are in the league. Just wondering, how do you feel about the direction that the league is going in? The sport, of course, is growing nationally, internationally. Just talk a bit about the WNBA, its growth, and just what Kathy and everyone over there is doing with the league.
I think it's really exciting times in our game. And you look at it in the heels of college, women's basketball and at the college game. And now you're seeing it kind of, transcend into the WNBA. I love seeing how many of these arenas now are sold out. People are viewing the game. They want to watch it on television. I can't wait to watch tonight as it tips off, and to be able to go out and support it. So I love that, women in our game put so much time and work and to be in the very best, and to be able to see women being supported in their field of work is a dream come true.